And welcome back, everyone, to Pokemon Team Creation Series. From Seth, the Xenomon Official, we have Kimberly Tran Harts, also known as the Pink Ranger, the OG Pink Ranger from Power Rangers. Now, I've already done Jason. Still got, I also think I've done Tommy, too. In fact, no, I know for a fact I've done Tommy. But we still also have Billy, we have Zach, and we have Trini to do later on for the OGs. And I'm sure other people will give me other Power Ranger characters down the road. I think I got Lord Zed to do. If I haven't already done him, Rita at some point I'll get to. I digress. So as the Pink Ranger, she's actually nowhere near as difficult as some of the other Rangers, because being among the OG Rangers, it's allowed her to have 3 different Zords, both the Pterodactyl, the Firebird, and the Crane Zord. Not to mention the Shogun era Zords, which she had for a little bit. She is a skilled martial artist in her own right. She has a signature weapon. And overall, I think we are able to actually form a pretty cohesive team, and a pretty powerful team at that I ended up with. So let's get to it. Her Zord, her original Zord, is the pink Pterodactyl Zord, which normally hides in the volcano. Seeing as there's really only one Pterodactyl Pokemon, Aerodactyl is her ace Pokemon to start with. Again, it's the only Pterodactyl we really have. Excuse me. Yes, we have the Archeops line, but that's based on the Archaeopteryx. It's not based on the Pterodactyl. And beyond that, there really isn't any other Pterodactyl-type Pokemon out there. We actually haven't had a really firm fossil Pokemon since, or a firm group of fossil Pokemon since, no joke, Gen 6. Because Alola, being Hawaii and being relatively recent in the fossil record, didn't have any. Made sense. And while Galar did have fossils, they weren't traditional fossils. They were based on the whole mix and match kind of thing. So they were not traditional fossil Pokemon of, like, the a rock/something type. And we didn't get any fossils in Paldea, which I'm guessing is, again, because Spain is relatively, new in terms of fossil record, I'm guessing. But I'm hoping, if what they're saying with Greece is true, that we'll get some cool, like, maybe water fossil Pokemon, like Dunkleosteus, or Spinosaur, or Mosasaur, Ichthyosaur. There's plenty of fossil Pokemon still out there. Like, seriously, you could make an entire list, which I might add on to my random video list to do, of fossil Pokemon that can be made. I mean, you look at all the fan stuff, and it's easy. So I don't know why they slowed the roll on some stuff. But anyway, I guess. So Aerodactyl makes sense as a race. Now, she's also among the most agile of the Power Rangers. She and Trini are the most acrobatic of them. So I wanted an acrobatic Pokemon, and something that was at least a fighting type. I ultimately ended with Hisuian Lilligant, which is, again, very acrobatic, relatively speedy too, fighting type Pokemon. And I mean, the fact that it is feminine in nature isn't mandatory, because some of the Pokemon on here aren't female in nature. Aerodactyl, a perfect example, but I think helps. Also got some pink on it, Pink Ranger, so that doesn't hurt. But she also has her specific weapon. Now, all the Rangers have special, like, I believe they're dagger blasters, they're called, but they all also have their signature weapons. Jason had his sword. Billy, I believe, has daggers specifically. No, is it Trini who has the daggers? Billy has an axe. That's right. Billy has an axe. And, I can't, it's been so long since I watched it. I know Jason has the sword. Obviously, Kimberly has the bow, which we use Decidueye for that, so get that out of the way right now. Decidueye is her bow and arrow Pokemon. It's Trini who has the daggers. Billy and Zach, one of them had an axe. I know that. What did the other one have? It's bothering the hell out of me, so hold on. Billy, Power Rangers. Billy Power Rangers. 1 second. Billy Power Rangers. What was his? Was he the one with? I like it's Billy Cranston. Sounds a little bit like Bryan Cranston. But is he the one who has the axe? Because he has the Triceratops. I want to say though, it's Zach who has the axe. I think, but I'm just gonna find out right. Okay, blue. Oh no. He had the Power Lance. That's right. He had the blue Power Lance. It is Zach who has the black axe. Okay, that's what it is. I'm trying to figure out why the weapon is. I knew there was like some sort of spear, rod, something or other. But yeah, he had that, and they combined to create like the super blaster attack weapon. Anyway, so now we got that out of the way. Yeah, so Decidueye is her bow and arrow. But as I said, she did have other Zords in later series. She also had I believe the Thunder Firebird Zord, which basically was the Pterodactyl evolved. I could have gone Talonflame, but I did Talonflame with Jason. So she's getting Moltres. Makes sense. It is a literal Firebird. So there you go. Now I could have gone Galarian, admittedly, but the typing changed. And I think if it's a Firebird, it still needs to remain the original Moltres. But she also had the or the pink Crane Zord from Ninja, or Power Rangers Ninja, the Ninja Zords. That is a little bit trickier because there is no Crane type Pokemon in design. There is no Crane based Pokemon. There's no Herring based Pokemon either. But what there is available is a Stork, which I think in Bombardier. God, that's a name. I haven't used Bombardier yet, but I think it's probably the closest that we can get. Although, no. So I was about to say, it's Pheasantipity, but Pheasantipity literally has pheasant in the name, so that doesn't work. And I got a little something caught in my throat from lunch. Sorry about that. If you hear me doing like that, clearing my throat, it's because I got a little food caught in my throat. So there's your Crane. Last but not least, though, this one was really the most filler on here, and the one I would probably say you could change out if you had a different route to go. I went Mienshao. It's, again, a very acrobatic Pokemon. It learns acrobatics. And, again, Kimberly and Trini were the two most agile and acrobatic of the Power Rangers, the original ones. So I figured that made sense to put on the team. So with that said, as always, the main question of the day is, how balanced is this team? And wow, man. So let me tell you right now. We got ×2 in terms of weaknesses. ×2 weakness to water with your rock and fire type right there. ×3 weakness to electric with your 3 flying types. ×4 weakness to rock with your 3 flying types. ×4 weakness to ice with 2 of your flying types, not including Moltres, and your 2 grass types. ×2 weakness to fire with your 2 grass types. ×3 weakness to flying with your 2 grass types and your 1 fighting type. And it's quad weakness on that Lilligant. A ×2 weakness to psychic with your 2 fighting types. And a ×2 weakness to fairy with your 2 fighting types. So, butt ton of weaknesses. However, a ×3 strength against bug with all your flying plus the fire type added on there just for a little bit of extra kick. ×4 strength against ice. So kind of with your 2 fighting types and your fire and your rock type. A ×3 strength against fighting with your 3 flying types. ×3 strength against grass with your fire and your flying types. A ×2 strength against ground with your 2 grass types. 3 strength against rock with your grass type and your fighting type. ×2 strength against water with your grass type. A ×2 strength against dark with your fighting types. A ×2 strength against normal with your fighting types. ×2 strength against ghost with your ghost type and your dark type, because Bombardier is a dark type. ×2 strength against psychic with your ghost and your dark type. And a ×3 strength against steel with your 2 fighting and your fire type. I would say this is kind of evens out. You got more strengths on you than weaknesses, so that certainly is a boon. But you still have a lot of weaknesses on the team. But you have a complete team of fully evolves, first off, so that really aids you. One of them is a legendary, one of them is a starter, one of them is a high-leveled fossil Pokemon, and the rest honestly have solid stats overall. I think Bombardier's got the weakest stats of the line. But the question, as always, is, can you become the champion in all the regions? The answer to that is no, but can you become champion in Kanto? Absolutely you can. There is not one single gym leader that gives you a problem. Aerodactyl, as of Gen 9, naturally has Ancient Power on it, as well as Bite, which means you can handle Brock no problem. Misty, you'll have a grass type, and you're going to clean through it. Not one single gym leader has a type that really hurts the team. The one individual in the Elite Four that is going to legitimately give you problems is not Lance, despite the fact he has a dragon. He's dragon. He's only got one Dragonite, two Dragonair, a Gyarados, and an Aerodactyl. You should be able to manage, honestly. I mean, don't get me wrong. He's not going to be easy because you still have a ×3 weakness to flying on this team, but you should be able to manage against him overall. He'd be a difficult fight, but I think you can do it. The one actually you struggle the most with is Lorelei because of her ice and water typing. Her ice types negate your weaknesses to negate the water type weakness to grass, and the water types negate the fire weakness that her ice types have. So you're gonna have to rotate in and out on a couple of these, but I think you should be able to get through both of them. And honestly, blue is not that big of an issue against this team because he starts Pidgeot. You have Aerodactyl to take that out real easy. He doesn't swap out. He then moves into Alakazam. You could probably keep Aerodactyl in there because it should know Crunch. But if you decide to move out and just make sure not to take the hit, you can just go Birdier and it can just absorb the psychic moves and then deal dark type attacks at it. Then he brings down Rhydon. You don't want to switch into one of your grass types, takes down Rhydon. And then he has just either a combination of grass, electric, and fire with one of the starters. And you should be able to take that down no problem. Johto is, again, it's a pretty clear shot through Johto. Aerodactyl owns the first two gyms, honestly. And by the time you get to Whitney in that legendary milk tank, you'll already have Dartrix, you'll have Hisuian Lilligant can evolve through a stone. So assuming you're allowed to have it as soon as you want, then you can just have a fighting type Pokemon to take it down. So yeah. And then you get all the way into the Elite Four. None of the Elite Four themselves should be an issue. Lance, though, is going to be a tricky one. This version of Lance has 3 fully evolved Dragonites, admittedly lower level than they should be, but fully evolved Dragonites, Charizard, Aerodactyl, and Gyarados, which means he's got type coverage to deal with pretty much everything you have on the team. Gyarados, even if it is weak to rock, is still a water type, so Aerodactyl going against Gyarados is not a smart play, actually. Neither is Decidueye or Lilligant, although you're going to need to use one of them to take him down. It's going to be neutral to grass, so there's that. But Charizard, yeah, Aerodactyl, you got that. But if you've lost Aerodactyl already, you're going to be in trouble. Then there's also his own Aerodactyl, which you immediately are at odds with. You have a problem with because it can literally, between the rock typing and the flying typing, no joke, it can take out everything on this team. Because Aerodactyl is not rock is not resistant to rock. Aerodactyl is actually still weak against rock. So literally, his Aerodactyl could sweep your team if you're not careful. It resists the fighting type. I mean, it's neutral to fighting, but still, it's going to be neutral to the fighting type. It's going to be neutral to grass instead of weak against it. So and then you still got to deal with the Dragonite. So I wouldn't say it's impossible, but it is a very hard maybe, and not a hard maybe in your favor. Then in Hoenn, Hoenn's the one where you're going to struggle the most in, I think. And I don't mean that in the sense that you're just going to automatically lose. No, there's other regions where you actually might just straight up lose. Honestly, Sinnoh is an example of a region where you would just straight out lose in the first gym because Aerodactyl, like I said, doesn't resist rock. And he's got Onyx Geodude and Cranidos, which has a much higher attack stat at the time. Or at least has a high enough attack stat to do enough damage to do something. But with Hoenn, it's less that you're like, for example, Roxanne, because she has 2 Pokemon that are going to be able to resist or take enough damage to take hits from Aerodactyl. Rock Tomb on Nose Pass on Aerodactyl could take Aerodactyl out. Even to get past that, you'll make it through most of the gyms up until honestly up until Winona, because you should be able to make it through the rest of the gyms without too much difficulty. Hell, even Flannery, being able to take down 2 of those Mon without issue, because she's a fire type, it's not going to be able to take down either Moltres or Aerodactyl anywhere near as easily, so she should be fine. And Norman really throwing out Decidueye at that point. Actually, you wouldn't have Decidueye at that point. It's not quite there yet. But you shouldn't really struggle against Norman, I would think. Winona, though, is a problem, because even though she's a flying type gym leader, she has Pelipper, which is good against both Moltres and Aerodactyl. She has that freaking Skarmory, which you're going to need Moltres to deal with. She has Swellow, which is just a decent Pokemon. And then she has Altaria, which is legendarily not fun to deal with. Mind you, though, she's not going to be able to spam Earthquake against most of this team, which is good. So there's at least that advantage. But Winona would be problematic. Liza and Tate, not so much. Should be able to take them down. Although, to be fair, the Psychic Rock type could be a little problematic. But otherwise, you have both a Ghost, 2 Grass, Dark type on the team, and a Fighting type on the team, which can at least do neutral damage. You should be fine. Neither final gym leader should be a problem because you can handle water types, frankly, with ease. The Elite Four, Glacia, again, water and ice. You are going to struggle a bit. And then Drake. Drake, I think you're stopped at Drake. Your team's not really well handled. That is not well designed to handle dragons. So, unfortunately, and Drake has Flygons on the team, which, yeah, its ground type moves aren't going to do anything, but its dragon type moves will. I believe he has a Kingdra, he has Altaria, and he has a Salamence, and you don't have good answers for those. I think you would stop at Drake. If by some miracle you got past Drake, could you beat Lance? Well, you'd probably want to switch out of our Aerodactyl pretty quick into Moltres and just start flaming the entire team as best you can. When a non-flame, like when something like Lily or Claydol or Armaldo comes out, you will have to switch in to a different mon. Probably you're going to have to switch into either Aerodactyl or Menfu, but honestly, or Menshao. But yes, if you could get the land, Steven, you could win, but I don't think you would. I think you would, at best, stop at Drake, which is still good ways, but still. Honestly, there's a little chance you stop at Roxanne. And like I said, you're not beating Rorik, I don't think. Even if you get all the way to Cynthia, you really would not manage Cynthia well. You'd have to, Aerodactyl and Spiritomb would be going at it for a little bit. Spiritomb might take down Aerodactyl, which means you actually are now down a mon, which is not good. So you probably want, and if it's still around, you got to go with something that's going to be at least neutral. So you're going to probably want to have to go into either Decidueye or Bombardier. I'd personally go Bombardier because you know she has 2 water types to deal with, but that lies another problem. She'd probably bring up Milotic now, and that thing has Ice Beam. So you're honest, no joke. You're better off just letting the Bombardier die, get what damage you can off that thing. But the problem is it also has Recover. So do what you can, and then go Mienshao and try to kick that thing's ass. Because her water types are going to wreak havoc on your Moltres. And, like, you could go the grass types, but again, that thing has Ice Beam. So Mienshao is actually your better bet. If you can bring it down, you'll be in a much better way. She'll bring out probably either Gastrodon or honestly, Roserade. Roserade, like, if I were to do it, if I had her AI, I'd go Roserade. It has type resistance thanks to poison. And then you'd probably have to take down that. And so then you bring out Moltres. That takes it down. But then she brings out Gastrodon. And it's gonna get rough again. You're going to have to bring in one of your flying type or grass types. It's going to have to take a hit. You're going to take down the Gastrodon. She's going to bring out Lucario. You swap in for Moltres, and you might be in a good way for a little bit, but Garchomp honestly can take down the rest of the team because Dragon resists grass, so that ground type weakness for grass is kind of moot. I don't think you could beat Cynthia. That's just the way it played out in my head, too. It could play out many different ways. Then in Unova, honestly, no joke, in both versions of the game, you stop at Elisa. You stop at the 4th Gen. And this is due to the fact that, while yes, you have a Moltres, an Aerodactyl, you'd have a Dartrix and Hisuian Lilligant, she has Emolgas with Aerial Ace and Electric-type moves on her, which means both your grass types are screwed, and they outspeed them, too. Both your grass types are screwed, and the Emolgas are just going to electrify your flying types. Unfortunately, I don't think you get past them. In theory, if you got to both champions, both Alder and Iris respectively, Alder, I think, is a hard maybe. You could do it because you have enough flying and a fire type on the team to counter his half bug types of his team. But dealing with things like the Buffalo are going to be difficult because besides Mienshao, you don't have a good option for that. And Druddigon, you just don't have a good answer for. It's not super strong per se, although it does have super power. And then obviously Volcarona, you're going to have to hopefully hold on to a flying type with that, or hold on to your Aerodactyl if you're capable. That said, it's a hard maybe, whereas Iris is a hard no. Just starting out with Hydreigon alone, yeah, you got the 2 fighting types, but it's a pseudo-legendary against you. I don't foresee that going very well, to be honest. I don't see that going very well at all. Mienshao might be the one. If they can like high jump kick the Hydreigon, maybe could one-shot it. Maybe. But that's a hard maybe. And even then, you're losing one of your fighting types guaranteed against that thing. She's going to have Haxorus. And if that thing gets one Dragon Dance off, good night Irene on that. And that's not even including the Aggron, the Lapras, the Archeops, and the Herdronagon. So, I don't think so. And Kalos is actually really a yes. Like, there's no real issue in Kalos whatsoever. Honestly, none of these gym leaders are going to be that big of a problem. None of the Elite Four are a problem. And even Diantha normally is a bit of a problem. But, yeah, because I do think Diantha's team is a little underrated, personally. But you just got the tools out. Like, the Hawlucha's not going to be able to stand to the Aerodactyl, surprisingly. Even if you bring out Tyrantrum, all you got to do there is bring in probably Mienshao. Mienshao might have to take a hit, but you can blitz through it with some fighting type moves between it and Aurorus. Goodra is tanky. We'll give it that, which means it probably will take 1 or 2 your Mon down, but you should be fine. Gourgeist will go down to Moltres, and that still leaves you with at least half your team ready to take on, and probably in full health too, ready to take on Mega Gardevoir. So is it impossible? God no. Is it possible you could still lose? It's still possible, I'd say. In Galar, no, just no. Once again, the third gym leader is always that Kofu is no joke, man. Even though he's fire type, and even though Aerodactyl could easily take down the fire type, his Arcanine, his Ninetales, and his Gigantamax Centiskorch can still outspeed a lot of you. So both their grass types are no good here, which means you're going to be focusing a lot on Aerodactyl. Honestly, you're probably better off leading with them, get whatever damage you can in first, and then go with Aerodactyl. But I don't know if it's not a walk in the park. I don't think you would, but I think it's still possible if you get lucky with Aerodactyl. But the problem just then comes down to freaking Leon. Aegis Lash alone. You'd have to switch into Bombardier. It's dark type, and even then, or use a dark type move like a Crunch or something like that from Aerodactyl, and then he brings out the Dragapult, which has moves to sweep this entire. It has Thunderbolt and Flamethrower. It wipes out 80% of this team. It wipes out 5/6 of this team on its own with no issues because it outspeeds every last one of these assholes. So, no, you're again. I'm broken record on this topic. That should have been his ace. No joke, because it's frankly stronger than the Charizard. It's way better coverage. So, and the only reason they gave it Dragon Breath is because Dragon Darts would have made it too freaking haxed. Anyway, so with Paldea, honestly, you should be have no problem up until you get to the Elite Four, and even then, Rika, Poppy, Larry. Larry might be a little bit of a struggle, but Aerodactyl should be able to clear a lot of it. Hassel, though, being a dragon type and having a pretty broad typing for his dragon team, that's going to be problematic. Excalibur is an ice type, so it has ice type moves. That means it can take down 2/3 of your team. Dragalge, it's a poison type. It can poison the team, and it's going to be resistant to your fighting type moves. You have Flapple, which admittedly is not going to do much, but it is speedy. You have Noivern, which is a very solid Pokemon. Yeah, it's still weak to Rock, but that's about it on this team it's weak to. And then there was one other dragon I'm missing. Oh, I think he has Haxorus too, which we already know Haxorus is kind of busted. I don't know if you can get past Hassel. I'll say this. If you can, you should be able to beat Gita, no problem. Gita is one of the easiest champions there is. But this is just my opinion. This is the Pokemon team for Kimberly Tran Hart, aka the Pink OG Power Ranger, or the OG Pink Power Ranger. This is my thoughts. What did you think? Put it down in the comments below. Thanks for watching. See you next time.